Hello and welcome to another Sonya Maya psychology video. I post every Sunday about relationships, psychology, SMEGS education, intimacy. If you like how that sounds, then stay tuned, maybe like and subscribe and make sure those notifications are on. I really love attachment theory and understanding attachment styles because not only is it validating to be like, okay, maybe that's why I have this pattern in relationships. Knowing about your attachment style can actually help you make better choices and change patterns that aren't serving you. Approximately 40% of individuals are either anxiously attached or avoidant attached. And I'm going to define attachment theory, and then I'm going to talk about 3 myths about attachment. And I really want you to watch until the end of the video because the last myth about attachment is really important to understand in order to motivate that behavior change that we were just talking about. So in terms of the 40% of individuals who have anxious or avoidant, it's about 20% or so that have anxious, about 20 or so percent that have avoidant, and 60% are securely attached. So what does anxiously attached mean? When thinking about individuals with an anxious attachment style, they typically depend on others for regulation. They depend on others for emotional regulation. They need a lot of reassurance and they have a fear of being alone a lot of the time. This can really look like, I can't rely on me. I can't meet my emotional needs. Or it might look like, when are they going to leave me? I bet they're already thinking about it. I'm going to keep their attention by any means necessary. Why does this happen though? If you take a look back at developmental psychology, right? A lot of the time, the way we approach relationships as an adult is related to the parenting style of our parents. How present were they? How consistent were they? How inconsistent? Were they predictable? Were they not? If you're anxiously attached, then as a child, you're probably not taught how to self-regulate. You are used to co-regulation. That means that maybe when you were a baby, I cried, my mommy came, she gave me attention, she gave me some booby, and okay, I feel regulated now. All right, this works. I'm gonna make a future note, mental note for future me. If I need to be calmed down, I need somebody else to help me calm down, instead of me being able to do it myself. When you're looking at anxious or avoidant attachment style, a lot of the time what this means is that there was an unmet need. With anxious attachment, typically it has to do with an unpredictable parent. And sorry, I feel like I keep saying typically, but I just want people to know that this isn't in every case. This is just representative of most individuals who are anxiously attached. Maybe there were some unpredictable patterns in childhood. When you're a baby, you cry, you're really dependent on others, you don't have a choice, right? People come, you get that attention, you feel soothed. In adulthood, this turns into, I'm not getting attention from my partner, I'm gonna keep texting them until they text me back. And then once I get that text back, finally I can calm down. It's pretty much the same dynamic, just we're talking about in different contexts and different stages of life. Studies show that when babies aren't attended to for their needs, let's say it's an inconsistent parent or a neglectful parent, this distress is really hardcore. The distress doesn't stop there though. The distress continues on into adulthood and it can turn into fear of abandonment, clinginess, neediness. A lot of the time, this fear of abandonment represents your inner child. We all have a part of us that represents our inner child. If you want me to talk more about inner child work, let me know below. I'd be happy to make a video about it because it's quite fascinating. When somebody has an anxious attachment style, because of that need to be with somebody, I can't be single, I need somebody, that fear of abandonment, unfortunately, they may overlook some red flags. Maybe they're talking to somebody who is giving them a lot of attention and then pulling back. That might turn into ignoring red flags because I want this relationship to work out so much that my identity, my sense of self-worth is all reliant on this relationship. Therefore, I'm going to put up with some very toxic behaviors because I need this person. They might hear only what they want to hear and ignore red flags. And it turns out that a lot of anxiously attached individuals end up dating avoidantly attached individuals. So we'll get more into that later, but it happens quite a lot. When you're anxiously attached in relationships, you might want to argue a lot, because even though arguing can be stressful, it is attention, right? They feel seen. I need to win this argument to feel seen. Very similar to a pattern of being a child and screaming for your iPad. In many cases, if you're anxiously attached, you think that, okay, there's something wrong with me and everyone else is doing something right. That must mean that I must be wrong. So they're very insecure in a lot of cases and they don't want to lose that person due to fear of abandonment. So you have that unmet need. You're using another person to fill that void, which doesn't work. And then if there is a fight, then you're more likely to fall back into that person's arms, even if they've done something really terrible, because it's just like the end of the world if this relationship ends, because now you're not there to fill that void for me. Now what do I do? Now let's talk about avoidant attachment, or dismissive avoidant, as it is sometimes called. I can take care of my own needs. I can't ask for help. I need to rely on me. Or it might look like, oh man, what if they start being needy? What if they ask about commitment? Oh no, am I gonna lose my sense of independence? Marriage going to be a life sentence? A lot of the time when you look into the history of somebody with an avoidant attachment style, you will see that they didn't have a lot of support growing up, possibly. Maybe their parents were neglectful, too busy, focused on work, focused on making money, whatever the case may be. And a lot of the time these people are parentified. So if you were avoidant attachment, then you had to learn how to take care of yourself. I can't rely on other people. From a young age, I need to learn to deal with my emotional issues on my own, and I cannot be vulnerable. Individuals with avoidant attachment, they might think that they're securely attached, but have a really hard time getting close to people, and they might be scared of commitment because they feel like they might lose their sense of self if they were to be in a relationship. They might cope with conflict by avoiding deep conversations, shutting down, walking away. I can't do this right now, that kind of behavior. A lot of people with avoidant attachment, they tend to use short-term gratification in order to cope. So for example, use of substances, exercise, losing themselves in a movie or a video game, and comforting themselves with skills unrelated to depending on others. And they were not taught co-regulation. It's all me, I got this, I'm good. And then there's secure attachment. So securely attached individuals, like, we're doing fine. We can self-regulate when appropriate and necessary, but we can also co-regulate as needed. Meaning I can take care of myself and I'll be okay, but sometimes it might be helpful to reach out to a friend or a family member when I'm struggling. When you take a look at securely attached histories, they typically do have their needs met by their parents, and being alone feels okay, but if I were to meet somebody compatible, maybe I could be happy that way too. Individuals with a secure attachment style, they have a desire for interdependent relationships. We are our whole selves coming together. So I like this analogy I heard somewhere. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 = 11. 1, 1. Which makes sense from a visualization standpoint, but of course the math isn't mathing. So I understand if you don't like that analogy, but I think it makes sense because get it? Like 1, 1, us together. We're still that one, but we're like next to each other. I'm going to take my world and your world and we're going to put them together. We're not gonna smash them together to make one big world. No, we have our own worlds and we're bringing them together. I like that mentality. I think it's really healthy. And it's really important to keep in mind, securely attached individuals might feel anxious or feel avoidant, but when it's reasonable to do so. And I'll get more into that later when I'm talking about the myths. Then there's fearful avoidant. So fearful avoidant, they have most of the negative qualities of anxious and avoidant attachment put together. Individuals with fearful avoidant might have thoughts like, what's wrong with me? I'm not worthy of love, or others want to hurt me. So there's something wrong with me and there's something wrong with them. When you are a fearful avoidant, there might be some characteristics of what people would call manipulative behavior, like love bombing. That is when you meet somebody and then you are over the top with compliments and, oh my God, you're amazing, I love you, I could see us married, oh, we'd have beautiful kids, when you just met them. And then all of a sudden, when it gets too real, starts pulling back. When you're dating somebody and then things get to the point of, what are we? Defining the relationship. You know, fair conversations, and then they might ghost, they might pull away. And I believe that this is where situationships are born. And situationships are quite common these days, and social media is going off on situationships, which I find very validating because I think almost all of us have been in a similar situation. And if you were love bombed or breadcrumbed by somebody, breadcrumbing meaning giving you a lot of attention and then pulling back. Oh, I'm gonna text you every day for a few weeks and then all of a sudden I'm just gonna take forever to text you back. That's breadcrumbing. I would say that not everybody that does that is fearful avoidant, but it definitely meets the criteria. Let's talk about some myths about attachment style now that I've gone a little deeper into each one and the characteristics of each. Myth number 1, it's a myth that it always comes from your relationship with your parents. Yes, parents play a huge role in attachment style in most cases, but it's not the whole story. You could be a securely attached individual. You had your needs met growing up, everything was great, and then all of a sudden you meet somebody and you get into a relationship, maybe as a teenager or even as an adult, and that's a toxic relationship, somebody that was hurtful. Maybe you dated someone avoidant or fearful avoidant, and then you start questioning yourself, and then you might start developing insecure attachment tendencies. Like I was talking about before, let's say you meet a love bomber or you meet a breadcrumber, and there was no reason for you to suspect that this was anything toxic. They say they want a relationship, they give you all of this attention, and then they start pulling back. Like, oh no, my freedom is being jeopardized. Then you might have some intrusive thoughts similar to an anxiously attached individual. Maybe you're actually anxiously attached now because maybe you were in that relationship for such a long time. It changed your perspective on relationships. This does happen. You're not just stuck with one attachment style. And unfortunately, you can go from secure to anxious or secure to avoidant, depending on the other relationships in your lives. It's not just about your parents, but self-reflection goes a really long way. Myth number 2 is that avoidant is bad or run away at all costs. I understand that after talking about avoidant attachment, these individuals that have a hard time with commitment, they get really fearful of vulnerability. I could see why people would be like, no, don't date someone who's avoidant. And it also gets a really bad rap on social media, so I can see why. But this is really dependent on the situation. There's a difference between someone who has an avoidant attachment style and is unable to self-reflect versus one who is willing and motivated to increase their self-awareness. Let's say you're dating somebody with an avoidant attachment style or a fearful avoidant. First off, have some compassion for yourself if you're thinking like, how did I get myself in this situation? I should have looked out for the red flags, whatever the case may be. Don't be hard on yourself, because remember this, we really meet someone's representative when we first meet somebody. We don't actually meet the actual person. I mean, yes, it looks like them, but you know what I mean? I think Chris Rock said it. You meet the person's representative. You don't meet the actual person. It takes a while for all that to come out later. And no, we can't make people change. We cannot tell them how to act. All we can do is approach them with compassion and use I statements. Using I statements is going to save you a lot of time and energy, because you don't want to point the finger at somebody, be like, every time I talk to you, you always run away. Every time. You always run out of the room every time I want to talk to you about something. That's gonna come off as an attack. Say something more along the lines of, I'm looking for a relationship where I can open up without somebody shutting down. I'd love to hear what your experience has been like. Something along those lines. So you're not pointing the finger at someone and then turns into attack, and then all of a sudden they're gonna shut down, and then the pattern continues. When to know when to definitely walk away. If you notice definite manipulation, let's say somebody love bombs you and then switches it up, or has you questioning yourself, your self-worth. Let's say someone's saying they want to spend time with you, but there's no follow-up with that behavior. They're all words. Words are cheap. The behaviors say it all. Then yes, definitely run for the hills. Myth number 3 is the most important one. A lot of people think that if you have a certain attachment style that you can't change it, but that is not true. You can change your attachment style. You absolutely can. It's not something you're born with, and you're not stuck with it for life. Be aware that this is not an easy process. In order to heal your attachment wounds, it's going to take a lot of self-reflection and a lot of work. It can be really helpful to do this with a licensed therapist, so I do highly recommend that you do that. But even watching videos like this and looking at the signs is really going to change your life. If you have an anxious attachment style, start practicing self-regulation. Work with a therapist to figure out what that looks like. If you're only depending on others to soothe you, it is time to really start to depend on yourself and be there for yourself, which will take practice, but you can do it. Do you miss your ex? No. You don't miss your ex. You miss the feeling of regulation, the feeling of the dopamine hit of being with somebody. You don't always miss the person. You miss the feeling of being with that person. And that has saved me so many times because it's true. It's psychologically true, and it will help unlock whatever it is that's making you feel stuck in that situation. Are you avoidantly attached? You can practice being more vulnerable. Practice your vulnerability. Open up to people. Reach out when appropriate. Are you fearful avoidant? Challenge thought patterns that are black and white. For example, I'm gonna get hurt if I open up. Sorry, I had to switch to my phone because my camera keeps dying. I don't know if it's like overheated from being on my ring light, but I was wrapping up the video anyway, so not terrible timing. But please do be empowered. Know this, you can change your attachment style. You're not stuck with that one. You can self-reflect, You can talk to your friends about it in a safe way, especially if you're avoidant, because I want you to practice that. You can open up to a therapist. And attachment theory is so powerful, it really will change your approach and patterns in relationships in a way that serves you and serves others. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe and turn on bell notifications. And I'm gonna be posting a psychology or intimacy related video every Sunday for Sex Ed Sundays with Dr. Sonya Maya. And I'll see you next week for another video. Bye.